It all started, as so many international incidents do, with someone talking when perhaps they should have chosen their words more carefully, or maybe not spoken at all. In this case, the talking happened when they probably should have been listening or at least paying closer attention to the room's mood. The setting, a stuffy trade conference in Columbus, Ohio, in the late months of 2024. Picture beige walls, the faint hum of fluorescent lights, lukewarm coffee in paper cups, and a room packed with business suits and tired faces. An American trade official, eager to make a point and perhaps impress the crowd, tried to sound tough. He called Canada's trade policies predictable and with a smirk, described Canada itself as a polite little brother, living off American economic scraps. In the world of diplomacy, those are fighting words. Words that can echo far beyond the conference room. For Canada, it wasn't just a casual insult, it was a stinging confirmation of a long-standing fear, that America would always see them as a sidekick, never as an equal partner. The comments, meant as a throwaway line, exploded online and across Canadian media. News anchors debated, social media lit up, and hashtags trended overnight. The polite Canadian smile, so famous for its restraint, began to twitch with irritation and resolve. The sleepy neighbor, so often overlooked, was about to wake up, and this time it wouldn't be with a yawn. The official's tone was dismissive, as if Canada was merely an afterthought, a footnote in America's story. The reaction in Canada was swift, a nationwide eye roll followed by a steely glare. People from coast to coast felt the sting. The insult did what politicians and policies couldn't. It united the country, bringing together people of all backgrounds under the maple leaf. The so-called polite little brother was about to show its strength, determination, and pride on the world stage. This moment in Ohio, seemingly small at first, became the catalyst for everything that followed, a spark that ignited a fire. The Americans, caught off guard, underestimated the power of national pride and the unity that a single careless comment could inspire. The stage was set for a showdown, not with tanks or troops, but with tariffs, trade disputes, and, most famously, a battle over whiskey that would capture the world's attention. Canada's response was immediate and fierce. The usually calm and reserved nation was suddenly thrust into the global spotlight, and it didn't hesitate to make its voice heard. The Prime Minister went on national TV, calling the remarks an insult to every Canadian, no matter their background or beliefs. His words echoed across the country, uniting people from coast to coast. Suddenly, political divisions vanished. Everyone was on Team Canada. People who rarely agreed on anything found common ground in their outrage and pride. Talk radio and social media exploded with outrage and pride. Hashtags trended, callers flooded the airwaves, and newsrooms buzzed with activity as Canadians voiced their unity. Canadians, tired of being stereotyped as apologetic, listed their achievements and demanded respect. They reminded the world of their contributions in science, peacekeeping, and culture. The government recalled its ambassador from Washington, a serious diplomatic move that signaled just how high the stakes had become. Next came the threat of tariffs. The message was clear: Canada would not be pushed around. The Minister of International Trade, in front of a giant flag, announced a list of strategic, impactful retaliatory tariffs. These measures targeted key American industries, making it clear that Canada meant business. Canada was done being polite. The nation's leaders and citizens alike showed a new determination and resolve. The unity was palpable. The government harnessed the public mood, channeling the energy of a nation that stood together as one. Canadians wore maple leaf pins daily, not just on Canada Day. The symbol became a badge of honor, a quiet but powerful statement of identity. The insult had an unintended effect. It made Canadians feel more Canadian than ever. Pride surged through communities, and celebrations broke out in unexpected places. The sleepy giant was wide awake and demanding respect. Canada's quiet strength was now impossible to ignore. The ball was now in America's court. All eyes turned south, waiting to see what the next move would be. The world watched to see how the big brother would respond. International headlines buzzed with speculation and analysis. Canada was ready to play hardball. The message was clear: respect was not optional. The friendly border was about to get frosty. A new chapter in North American relations was about to begin. America's response? Clumsy and uncoordinated, as if caught off guard by the sudden escalation. Instead of a real apology or meaningful dialogue, there was a week of awkward silence, followed by a weak, almost dismissive statement from a low-level spokesperson. The world watched, waiting for a sign of leadership, but none came. Canada, unimpressed and determined to make a point, dropped the hammer. unveiling a list of tariffs that targeted politically sensitive American products. Kentucky bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, Florida oranges, Wisconsin cheese, each item chosen to hit at the heart of American pride and pocketbooks. The whiskey war had officially begun, and the headlines blared the news across both nations. Targeting American whiskey was more than just economic, it was deeply symbolic. Canada was striking at a cultural icon, hitting America where it hurt most, in both reputation and revenue. Overnight, bourbon prices in Canada skyrocketed, leaving customers shocked and store owners scrambling to adjust. Liquor store shelves changed almost instantly. American brands vanished, replaced by Canadian alternatives or simply left empty, a stark reminder of the new reality. The US retaliated swiftly, slapping tariffs on Canadian lumber, aluminum, and in a move that raised eyebrows, even maple syrup, Canada's liquid gold. The trade dispute quickly spilled over into a culture war. It wasn't just about economics anymore, it was about national identity, pride, and old rivalries reignited. The world's longest undefended border now bristled with economic barricades as trucks lined up and tempers flared on both sides. Whiskey war became the catchphrase of the moment, capturing the spirit and absurdity of the conflict in just 2 words. News channels dramatized the standoff, pitting bourbon and Canadian rye as bitter rivals, fueling public debate and late-night comedy alike. It was about pride, not just trade. For many, it felt personal, a challenge to national honor and tradition. The century-old friendship between the two nations soured almost overnight, as goodwill gave way to suspicion and frustration. The war of words quickly became a war of goods. Both sides dug in, refusing to blink first as negotiations stalled and tempers rose. The conflict was personal now, affecting families, businesses, and communities on both sides of the border. No one was backing down. The whiskey war was just getting started, and its outcome was anyone's guess. The economic impact was immediate. U.S. whiskey distilleries lost a major export market. Layoffs followed. Farmers in Florida and Wisconsin saw Canadian orders vanish. In Canada, prices for American goods soared. Whiskey, cereal, car parts. Supply chains were thrown into chaos. Canadians cheered their government's tough stance, but groaned at higher prices. National pride had a price tag. Cross-border banter turned sour. Trust eroded. The world's friendliest border suddenly felt much taller. Empty shelves in Canadian liquor stores became a symbol of the conflict. The whiskey war was a harsh lesson in global interdependence. Both nations were learning it the hard way. Out of the chaos, a movement was born: #Sip Canadian. Canadians posted photos enjoying local rye whiskey, supporting homegrown distilleries. The hashtag trended, becoming a rallying cry for economic patriotism. Rye tasting parties replaced bourbon nights, bars promoted all Canadian cocktail lists. Small distilleries found national audiences, shelves emptied fast. The movement spread: buy Canadian, eat Canadian, millions redirected to local products. Canadians discovered the diversity of their own food and drink. #Sip Canadian wasn't just a boycott, it was a celebration. It fostered pride and community. Patriotism became about supporting local choices. Instead of anger, Canadians channeled frustration into positive action. The whiskey war's negative spark ignited a positive, unifying movement. Canadian identity was stronger than ever. The world took notice. By early 2025, the whiskey war's novelty faded, replaced by economic pain. U.S. agricultural and manufacturing lobbies pressured Washington to end the trade war. Senators from key states faced angry, unemployed constituents. The political cost was rising. In Canada, the #Sip Canadian movement thrived, but industries reliant on U.S. trade struggled. Both governments realized a prolonged conflict was unsustainable. Quiet, back-channel talks began. The U.S. finally issued a real apology delivered by the Secretary of State. It was unequivocal, acknowledging the disrespect and reaffirming the bond. This opened the door to formal negotiations. In Geneva, both sides agreed to lift all retaliatory tariffs. The whiskey war was over. No winners, no losers, just a mutual ceasefire. Symbolically, bourbon and rye crossed the border again. The peace felt fragile, but it was a start. Even after the tariffs lifted, the relationship wasn't the same. Trust was damaged, scars remained. Canadians, now loyal to local products, didn't rush back to American brands. The #Sip Canadian movement had changed habits for good. Economic recovery was slow, some jobs never returned. Both countries learned the risks of overdependence on one another. The war forced a strategic rethink of North American trade. Politically, Canada saw the value in standing up to the U.S. America learned its words have consequences. The incident became a case study in diplomacy respect matters. The polite little brother had earned new respect. The biggest lesson: trust is fragile. Rebuilding would take more than lifting tariffs. The hangover from the whiskey war would last. Today, rebuilding the friendship is slow and deliberate. It's happening in small, everyday interactions. Tourists, businesses, neighbors. Both countries know the relationship must be actively nurtured. The SIP Canadian movement endures, a symbol of resilience and pride. Americans now see Canada as a formidable partner, not a sidekick. Leaders on both sides are making public efforts to mend fences. The goal: a new, more honest foundation for partnership. The whiskey war is a cautionary tale. Careless words can threaten a century of friendship. The border is open, but something has changed. The friendship is older, wiser, and carries the memory of when Canada stood up and reminded the world of its strength, and that's a lesson worth toasting to.